Ki-hoon and his comrades express their heartfelt gratitude, and Jinwoo returns the healer's will to her. Then, as Jinwoo was departing, Chae tried to catch up with him to speak, but the bespectacled mage interrupted and asked why she was lugging around with a pickaxe. But Chaha shyly wonders if he would think she is weird, so the mage asks who she is talking about, and Chaha shyly replies no one. Later, Mr. Choi receives a report of the incident and is utterly astounded by the multitude of abilities Jinwoo has displayed. He asks Ki-hoon to compare the strength of Jinwoo with his own, noting that while typical raids rely on the coordinated efforts of many hunters, Jinwoo defies that norm by working alone. Ki-hoon then challenges Mr. Choi, asking whether he truly believes that he can conquer the most difficult dungeon on his own. Mr. Choi, with a wry smile, remarks that he doubts it, and then says that his title of Ultimate Hunter might now be little more than a joke. And as Mr. Choi leaves, Ki-hoon tells him that he must recruit Jinwoo at all costs, and Mr. Choi announces that he will do his best. Meanwhile, Jinwoo meets up with Leo, inquiring about how matters with the guild master have unfolded. Leo fills him in on the details, and the scene then shifts to the Hunter Association. Their famous actor named Lee Min-sung has just awakened as a hunter, and the media has swarmed the area to cover the breaking news. Min-sung, reveling in the attention, believes himself to be the star of the day, basking in his newfound fame. The scene then shifts to Baek and Mr. Choi arriving at the Hunter Association, with the media buzzing that they're there to recruit Lee Min-sung. Baek, clearly annoyed, asks who the hell that even is, and Mr. Choi curtly replies that he's not here for that nonsense. Although Mr. Choi has heard of Lee Min-sung, he explains that the guy has already inked a deal with the Fiend Guild, and he's here for something entirely different. Disappointed by the lack of a juicy headline, the media soon scrambles off. Baek then recalls hearing that Mr. Choi had been troubled by the recent A-rank dungeon, which nearly reached S-rank status. Mr. Choi dismisses it as nothing compared to what the White Tiger Guild suffered at the Red Gate, where real casualties occurred. Baek mentions he even heard that Mr. Choi was almost about to beg him for help, but Mr. Choi insists that things turned out differently thanks to Jinwoo, so much so that he now plans to give Jinwoo a grand welcome into his guild. Baek agrees that Jinwoo saved them too, and the two start bickering over who will be the one to recruit him. Just then, the guild master of the Fiend Guild steps in and asks if they're squabbling over Lee Min-sung. They quickly shoot back that they couldn't give a damn about that damn guy, and at that moment, Jinwoo arrives at the association, utterly baffled by all the commotion. Meanwhile, over at Jinna School, the girls are glued to the news about Lee Min-sung from the Hunter Association. They chat about how Min-sung, an actor with a seriously tainted reputation, is involved in a slew of scandals, with rumors that he sleeps around with every actress he works with. Back at the association, Min-sung himself addresses the media. With surprising determination, he announces that he's decided to become a hunter. He declares that he'll be joining the Fiend Guild under the leadership of its master, Loon Ta-ju, prompting the media to ask if that means he's retiring from show business. Everyone is shocked that he made such a drastic decision without even knowing his official assessment results. But with a confident smirk, Min-sung asserts that he already knows he's a rank hunter and that his contract with the Fiend Guild will last for 2 years, after which he'll return to the industry, and by then his scandals will be nothing more than distant memories. He pretends that he's ready to risk his life fighting magic beasts, no matter what his rank might be. Just then, as Jinwoo tries to sneak into the association, Min-sung's guards block him, telling him he can't enter until the conference is over. Just then, Gunny bursts in and announces that Jinwoo is already his guest, recalling that he had specifically requested they not hold a press conference at this hour. Min-sung bristles at this intrusion, but Gunny doesn't give a damn and promptly takes Jinwoo inside. The media, now even more curious, starts wondering who this mysterious Jinwoo is. Meanwhile, Min-sung tries to force his way into the association for an appraisal, but Jinchul intercepts him, warning that he can't get in right now because others are being reassessed. Min-sung seethingly asks Jinchul if he even knows who he is, threatening that a single word from him could cost him his job, yet Jinchul, clearly clueless about his shit identity, orders him to stay outside or else. We then see Gunny escorting Jinwoo to the reassessment venue, where Jinwoo notices that Mr. Choi and Baek are present to review his results. Entering the assessment room before they begin re-evaluating his power, the assessors ask him what abilities he uses. Jinwoo casually demonstrates by summoning one soldier, though Gunny knows full well that's just the tip of the iceberg, as Jinchul has filled him in on his true capabilities. Deciding it's time to show his real strength, Jinwoo summons his entire army, declaring that he can bring forth about 100 more soldiers on command. Gunny is visibly stunned by this display, and both Mr. Choi and Baek can practically feel the sheer intensity of his magic. So powerful that it makes them wonder if his abilities even surpass their own. Before long, the appraisal process concludes and Jinwoo is issued an S-rank hunter license. He thinks to himself that with this new status, No one will ever suspect him if he sells the Sphere of Avaricious, using the money to get properly equipped. With renewed determination, he decides that his next target will be the Demon Castle, and Gunny eagerly looks forward to seeing what he can accomplish. We then see Jinwoo leaving the association with Mr. Choi and Baek waiting eagerly to talk to him about recruiting him, but he simply walks right past them, insisting he has other pressing matters to attend to. Just as he opens the door to the association, he's ambushed by flashing cameras, the media snapping pictures of him. Sangye, astonished to see his face on the news, shows the photos to Jinna, who is equally shocked to discover that her brother has become an S-rank hunter. All of Jinwoo's associates catch wind of the news. Some can't believe their eyes, while others had long suspected it was only a matter of time. Back at the association, the media have shifted their focus away from Minsum and are now bombarding Jinwoo with questions. Meanwhile, Leo confides in his father that he was unable to convince Jinwoo to join his guild. He recalls that Jinwoo flatly rejected his offer, insisting that he has a personal mission to complete on his own. Jinwoo explained that joining any organization at this point would only slow down his progress. He must grow stronger independently, and then he asked Leo to come with him instead. Back to the present, Leo pleaded with his father to let him follow Jinwoo. In response, his father scolds him for what he sees as an extremely selfish decision. He reminds Leo that he had originally entrusted this project to his own brother, only to change plans at Leo's insistence, and now Leo seems intent on abandoning everything without achieving a single milestone. He challenges Leo, asking if he believes that is fair, prompting Leo to recall his experiences with Jinwoo and resolve with determination that he must go with Jinwoo no matter what. At the same time, staff at the association are busy keeping the press at bay, preventing them from crowding around Jinwoo. Baek offers to escort Jinwoo home, arguing that dealing with the media would be too draining, but Jinwoo insists there's no need. With remarkable speed, he slips past the reporters while covering his face. Mr. Choi is stunned by how physically strong Jinwoo has become despite his magical background, and Baek can hardly follow his movements with his own eyes. So he wonders if Jinwoo has grown even more powerful since they last saw him, and Jinwoo himself thinks that all that remains is for him to acquire the right equipment. Later, we see Jinwoo at an auction house, where he tells a staff member that he's in the market for an item designed to defend against fire-based attacks. When the attendant inquires about its intended use, Jinwoo explains that he needs something to withstand the intense heat inside a dungeon. He displays a cloak and some rings, noting that while they're reasonably priced, the cost is still a bit steep for him. He wonders if a discount might be possible, but the staff informs him that prices are fixed. However, they add that if he manages to break the glass encasing their equipment, he might just walk away with it for free. Jinwoo is startled by the staff member's comment and readies himself to smash the glass. Just as he's about to throw a punch, the staff interjects, explaining that he was only joking, and that even a slight vibration would trigger an alarm due to the glass's remarkable strength. He apologizes for taking the joke too far, leaving Jinwoo feeling awkward. Frustrated, Jinwoo tells the staff that he'd rather see some proper weapons instead. The weapons specialist then leads him over to display a selection of short swords. As they walk, the armor specialist member points out that Jinwoo somehow managed to crack the glass, even though he never actually touched it. Meanwhile, a particularly hefty short sword is presented to Jinwoo, and he can hardly believe the outrageous price tag, especially since its strength barely matches that of Kasaka's Venom Fang at best. In response, Jinwoo pulls out the Kasaka dagger he recently purchased from his personal store and asks the staff how much it could fetch on the market. They confidently tell him it could sell for about 100 million gold, a figure that shocks him given that he originally paid only 2.8 million. This revelation convinces Jinwoo that items bought at the store are highly valuable, and he begins to think that he might not need to part with the Sphere of Avaricious after all. Taking a break, Jinwoo retreats to the bathroom, and the scene shifts to the headquarters of the White Tiger Guild. There, Baek reflects on Jinwoo's immense strength, pondering how this second awakening might have ended long ago, yet he continues to grow stronger. Baek wonders if he has been approaching things the wrong way, and he starts to consider that perhaps Jinwoo is a hunter who can keep getting stronger indefinitely. The narrative then cuts to Jinwoo's home, where Jiena notices that the media has finally stopped bothering their house, an event that delights her because it means she can return to school in peace. Jinwoo speculates that the association must have intervened to ensure their privacy. Teasingly, Jiena suggests that he could be on TV if he wanted to, but she begs him not to drag her into it. Jinwoo shrugs, admitting it's beyond his control, and then announces that he'll be away for a week starting tomorrow, a revelation that leaves Jiena surprised and curious about his plans. At that moment, Leo shows up at the doorstep. When Jiena asks if he's one of Jinwoo's friends, Leo clarifies that he's actually Jinwoo's right-hand man. Jinwoo quickly offers an explanation, telling Jiena that he'll be working with Leo for the next week. Although Liu seems a bit confused at first, a gentle nudge from Jinwoo helps him understand, and he readily agrees to play along. At night, we find Liu fast asleep in Jinwoo's room while Jinwoo quietly checks on Gina, thinking that maybe things have finally settled down. Though now everyone knows he's an S-rank hunter, so he's got to be extra cautious. To ensure security, he summons Fang's guards from earlier, but quickly notes that only 3 are here, recalling that Fang originally had 4. One of the guards reminds him that the 4th had been sent crashing into the ceiling by one of Jinwoo's earlier attacks, and his shadow extraction didn't manage to recover him. Jinwoo shrugs it off, deciding that 3 guards suffice. He then leaves one of them along with 2 ordinary guards to watch over Gina. Then while on the rooftop, Jinwoo reflects on the need to bolster neighborhood security and orders some of his soldiers to patrol the area, ensuring it remains peaceful. Overhead, we then see a majestic flying magic beast soar through the sky. The following day, Jinwoo and Leo are seen driving together. Leo thanks Jinwoo for letting him stay over, and Jinwoo reassures him that there's no need to worry about him running away from his house. Leo then inquires about Jinwoo's business at Daesung Tower. Jinwoo reveals that he's scheduled to train for an entire week there, much to Leo's surprise. After all, he's already an S-rank hunter. Jinwoo simply replies that he still believes in the pursuit of greater strength, a sentiment that doesn't surprise Leo all that much. Later, inside the imposing Demon Tower, Jinwoo, adorned in his water-based ring and wind robe, embarks on his latest conquest. He receives a quest to slay the demon monarch Baron residing on the top floor, with a reward promising a rune stone for the Shadow Exchange ability plus 30 ability points. Fired up by the challenge and the rewards on offer, he teleports to the 76th floor. In another scene, Leo's mother is seen in conversation with his father, astonished that their son has left home. While his father appears nonchalant, he suddenly collapses. Back at the Demon Castle, Jinwoo is locked in combat with a formidable boss-level monster. In the heat of battle, he summons Fong and hands it the Sphere of Avaricious. Fong retaliates by unleashing a powerful fire spell that reduces the monster to ashes. Impressed by the display, Jinwoo resolves to carefully consider when best to deploy Fong's abilities in the future. Later, we see Leo's father awake in the hospital, learning that Leo has come to visit him. His wife confesses that she lied about his collapse being due to overwork to Leo, and they recall the doctor's grim explanation. He has contracted the so-called eternal slumber disease, a condition where one is overwhelmed by sleepiness until they eventually falls into an unending slumber. Leo's father kept wondering why he had contracted this awful disease, and the doctor explained that people with low resistance to magic are especially prone to it if they're exposed for too long. The doctor even asked if any of his friends or relatives were hunters, which made both him and his wife think about their own son Leo, but the doctor admitted that the exact cause was still unconfirmed. Frustrated, Leo's father then began to wonder if perhaps he had been completely eliminated by this harsh world. Meanwhile, at the country's border, a squad of hunters was patrolling the area when they encountered that flying magic beast we saw earlier. They stopped in their tracks, all scratching their heads and wondering what the hell is that. Back in the Demon Castle, Jinwoo is leveled up after his recent battles. He explains that he's reorganized his soldiers into 6 separate teams, each operating on its own with 2 simple orders. First, to eliminate every visible enemy, and second, to alert him as soon as they find the permit. He admits that this strategy means he won't be able to grab any loot aside from the permit, but it's a more efficient plan overall. However, his progress has slowed considerably since he hit the 80th floor. As he ponders what might be causing the delay, he suddenly notices a drastic drop in his MP. It turns out that someone has been continuously wiping out his soldiers, specifically targeting his Team A. Jinwoo is shocked that an enemy here could defeat a team of his high-level orcs, so he calls his team back and heads out personally to investigate. Arriving on the scene, he finds that Team B has also taken a hit, and he figures that the enemy must be seriously formidable. But something doesn't add up. He points out that Fang's team was much closer to Team A, yet the enemy chose to target the more distant Team B. It dawns on him that this adversary must have known that Fang was too powerful to tackle, and so deliberately chose weaker opponents instead. Jinwoo then deduces that the next target will likely be the Ice Bear squad, and sure enough, he soon spots some demon knights swarming the Ice Bears. The demon knights tear through the bears as if they were nothing more than playthings, and Jinwoo watches in stealth mode. Satisfied with their performance, he deactivates his stealth. One of the knights lunges at him, but he swiftly dispatches the attacker. Then, as 2 more assailants join the fray, he tears them apart with ease, leaving only their leader standing. He charges toward her, but she seems afraid and retreats. At that moment, Jinwoo reflects on his long-held curiosity about whether magic beasts feel fear, and he finally confirms with a malicious smile that they damn do. Then the battle escalates as he clashes with the leader, nearly ending her life until unexpectedly she surrenders before he can deliver the finishing blow. As her voice echoes through the fray, he realizes that she is a woman. Removing her helmet, he takes in her features. She pleads for mercy, and Jinwoo is taken aback that the very person who initiated the conflict now begs to be spared. He retorts that he has already dispatched all of her companions, yet she insists that it is the solemn duty of the knights to protect their lord at all costs. She is convinced that as long as she remains safe, her people will thrive, a sentiment Jinwoo dismisses as selfish. Unmoved by her pleas, he turns to leave, but as he glances back, she lunges at him again. But before her attack can land, Fang intervenes to shield him. Confused, he demands to know what she intends to do, and she once more begs for her life, promising to do anything he requests. He orders her to fetch the entry permit, and she reveals that it is currently held by her family. If he spares her, she will retrieve it for him. Moreover, she boasts that she even knows the locations of every permit on the upper floors, and if he guarantees her family's safety, she will guide him to them. Jinwoo realizes that he failed to locate the permits because her family deliberately hid them, and he glares at her with murderous intent, questioning whether he can truly trust her. Sensing his fury, she pleads earnestly that he can, and he reluctantly agrees on the condition that he obtains the permit. She gratefully thanks him, and he then demands to know exactly who they really are. The scene abruptly shifts to a desolate island, where a sinister flying ant has infiltrated the area, leaving devastation in its wake as it slaughters everyone it encounters. Back at the demon castle, the girl introduces herself as Ezel, the eldest daughter of the Radiru family. Jinwoo, however, remarks that this is not the answer he was seeking. He had hoped to learn more about the system from her, much like he did with Baruka, the leader of the Ice Elves, and he presses her by asking if she is tormented by voices commanding her to kill humans. Ezel denies this, admitting instead that she hears a different directive, one to protect the space. Intrigued, Jinwoo asks when that command first began. She confesses that it all began the moment she arrived here, and when Jinwoo presses her about where she was before, she replies that she was in the demon realm, and that everyone only ended up here once they regained their senses. Intrigued, he wonders aloud what they were doing in the demon realm. Suddenly, something odd happens. She starts acting robotic, her voice flat as she explains that they were preparing for war. When he asks who they were gearing up to fight, she reveals that it was against a formidable enemy, so powerful that the demons had to band together to stand a chance, and they were on the verge of fighting that formidable enemy. But just as she begins to elaborate further, an error message suddenly issues from her mouth, announcing that the details are classified and that the conversation is now blocked. Before he can press for more, she faints and Jinwoo quickly catches her, realizing that he can no longer ask for any additional information. The scene then shifts to a meeting at the Hunter Association. Officials review photos from the recent flying ant attack on the Japanese outlying islands, and Jinchul reports that the assault caused a total of 294 casualties, with 108 hunters engaged in battle. Among the fallen were 4 E-rank hunters, 1 C-rank, and 1 B-rank hunter. Gunny is astounded that a single monster could inflict so much damage, and Jinchul adds that the creature was eventually put down by an A-rank hunter who arrived on the scene. Gunny deduces that the winged ants must possess A-rank strength, a fact confirmed by Jinchul, who cites findings from the investigation department after dissecting the monster. Gunny then points out that the island attack lies just 120 kilometers from Jeju Island, warning that if those ants develop even stronger flight capabilities, they could easily reach the southern tip of their nation. He immediately calls for assistance from Japan and urges that neighboring countries be alerted. He laments that the inevitable threat is upon them now. He wanted to strike first to prevent casualties, but it appears he was too late. Determined, he declares that the 4th raid mission of Jeju Island is now underway. Back in the demon castle, Ezel apologizes to Jinwoo for suddenly fainting. He gently asks if she's alright, and she assures him that she's fine, even wondering if he had been worried. He admits that he was indeed concerned and inquires if her home's nearby. Ezel gestures toward a house straight ahead, and they proceed inside. Once there, her father is taken aback by the unexpected visitor and wonders if she hadn't noticed the countless troops silently looming in his shadow. Jinwoo notes with appreciation that her father is quite perceptive, but soon enough Ezel's father's forces close in around him, declaring that they won't let him leave alive. Ezel intervenes, pleading with her father to stand down, while Jinwoo calmly reminds her father that he promised Ezel not to harm anyone as long as he receives the permit. Having heard that Jinwoo had defeated both Vulcan and Metis, her father is convinced that Jinwoo isn't an opponent they can defeat. Reluctantly, he hands over the permit, ordering Jinwoo to leave. Then, with unexpected boldness, Jinwoo asks if he might borrow her daughter as well. Startled, her father demands an explanation, so Jinwoo explains that Ezel had earlier mentioned she knew the locations of the permits on every floor. Her father then asks whether Jinwoo can guarantee his daughter's safety, to which he promises he can. Satisfied, her father permits the arrangement, prompting Jinwoo to ask Easel to guide him. Elsewhere, we see scientists are busy dissecting the flying ant, examining every detail with intense scrutiny. Back at the castle, Jinwoo continues his steady ascent through the floors, and soon he finds himself on the 89th floor. There he observes that both Igris and Tank have leveled up, one now holding the title of Elite Knight, while the other is just a knight. He muses that one of them now rivals the strength of an S-ranked adventurer, while the other is comparable to a rank adventurer. Meanwhile, Easel has prepared an array of gifts for the nobles on the floors above, intending to negotiate permits through these offerings, but Jinwoo dismisses the need for such bribes. Easel then warns him that the floors above level 90 are managed by high-ranking nobles, on a completely different level from the low-level shits he's been fighting, so obtaining permits by mere conversation will be extremely difficult. Jinwoo agrees, remarking bluntly that no one bothers to talk to someone they consider weak. He recalls that her family is locked in fierce competition with other demon nobles and promises that he will elevate her family to become the most powerful in this realm. Easel then asks him why he spared her family, and Jinwoo replies bluntly that it's because he likes her, leaving her blushing and embarrassed. Jinwoo muses that he really does get along with simple-minded folks like her and Jinho, so he tells Easel to head back home now. He reminds her that she just warned him things would get tough from here on out, and he doesn't want to drag her into danger. But before she leaves, he asks her to disclose the locations of the permits. Nervously, she wonders if she's useless to him. But he reassures her that isn't the case. In fact, he believes it wouldn't be safe for her to go ahead with him. Still determined to follow him and witness his achievements, she insists on coming along, so he agrees, and together they ascend to the 90th floor. There, Jinwoo battles the monsters advancing ahead, and he realizes that Easel was right. Both the strength and the sheer number of monsters in this area far exceed those on the lower levels. Nonetheless, he manages to push forward with little difficulty until he finally reaches the 97th floor.